All right, so let's dive right in. Today we're looking at big pharma and, even bigger deals.
Mm,
Specifically, Novo Holdings' recent acquisition of Catalent.
right.
This has got everyone talking, especially because it involves, these weight loss drugs everyone's heard about now, Wegovy and Ozempic.
Yeah, what's so interesting is that Novo Holdings, it's not a household name, but it's the investment arm of the Novo Nordisk Foundation.
Okay.
And they are the company behind those very drugs.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of like a behind-the-scenes chess move,
Mhm.
quiet but strategic, and has the potential to totally change the game in the GLP-1 market.
GLP-1.
Yeah. Glucagon-like peptide 1. That's the class of drugs these weight loss wonders belong to.
Okay, so it's Novo Nordisk making a play to really solidify their hold in this market.
Exactly.
But what does that actually look like? I mean, what did they buy?
So they snagged 3 key manufacturing sites from Catalent.
Okay.
One in Anagni, Italy, another in Brussels, Belgium, and the third in Bloomington, Indiana, right here in the U.S. And these sites are responsible for the final steps in producing injectables like Wegovy and Ozempic.
Oh, so more factories equal more drugs. But
Yeah.
why is that so important right now?
Well, think about all the headlines lately about those frustrating supply shortages for these drugs.
Yeah.
People are clamoring for them.
Yeah.
This move lets Novo Nordisk, potentially flood the market, meet that demand, and start thinking about expanding into new patient populations, maybe even new treatment areas.
So it's not just about making more of what they already have. It's about getting ahead of the curve.
Exactly.
But this acquisition, I mean, it was a pricey purchase, right?
Oh, yeah, it wasn't cheap at all. They
Right.
shelled out $16.5 billion for all of Catalent and $11 billion just for those 3 manufacturing sites.
Wow.
And, they are anticipating a financial hit in the next couple of years.
Wow.
It will probably be a low to mid single-digit negative impact on operating profit growth in 2024
Okay.
and a mid-single-digit negative impact in 2025. Free cash flow is also expected to be impacted.
Mm.
But they're playing the long game.
So a calculated risk,
For sure.
but they're not the only ones in this market.
Yeah.
What about their main competitor, Eli Lilly? They have their own, popular GLP-1 drugs too.
Oh, Eli Lilly is watching this very closely.
Yeah.
They've voiced concerns about, the potential for anti-competitive practices because guess what?
What?
They rely on Catalent for their GLP-1 production too.
Oh, wow. So this move could really shift that power dynamic.
Absolutely.
Could we see a price war on the horizon as they both fight for market share?
It's definitely possible.
Yeah.
And, it's not necessarily a bad thing for consumers.
Right. Competition breeds innovation and hopefully, better prices.
Exactly.
But there's another layer to this too, right? It's not just about producing more of the same drugs. Catalent has a lot of specialized expertise.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Their expertise in formulation drug delivery and advanced manufacturing could be like a secret weapon for Novo Nordisk.
What do you mean?
Well, it could allow them to create, the next generation of GLP-1 therapies.
Next generation. What are we talking about here?
Think more effective treatments, maybe fewer side effects, potentially even new ways to administer the drugs.
Okay.
We could be talking about a future where GLP-1 therapies tackle conditions beyond weight loss and diabetes, like Alzheimer's disease or chronic kidney disease.
That's where things get really exciting.
Right.
We're talking about potentially groundbreaking new treatments,
Yeah.
but a deal this big, it's got to be attracting some attention from regulators, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Antitrust regulators in both the U.S. and Europe are keeping an eye on this, worried about potential anti-competitive effects.
So Novo Nordisk has to tread carefully here.
Very carefully.
They've got a lot at stake.
A lot. They are making a bold bet on the future of GLP-1 drugs.
And potentially healthcare as we know it.
Right. It has the potential to reshape the landscape of the GLP-1 market.
Wow.
But only time will tell if they can navigate all these challenges and capitalize on the opportunities.
Well, that's a lot to digest
I
already.
know, right?
And we're just getting started. When we come back, we'll explore the broader implications of this deal for both Novo Nordisk and the GLP-1 market as a whole. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. So before the break, we were discussing how this acquisition has the potential to completely reshape the GLP-1 market.
Right. It's like they're placing this giant bet on the future of these drugs. But what does that future look like? What are their ambitions here?
Well, it seems like they're aiming for dominance in the metabolic disease market.
dominance.
Yeah, they're already a major player, but this could really catapult them to the forefront.
Well, what does dominance actually mean in this context? I mean, are we talking about just selling more drugs than anyone else?
It's way more than just sales figures.
Yeah.
It's about like setting the agenda, driving innovation and ultimately having the biggest impact on how these diseases are treated. Think about research and development. With Catalent's expertise, they could be the ones making the next big breakthrough in GLP-1 therapies.
So they're not just buying manufacturing capacity, they're buying a seat at the table where the future of metabolic disease treatment is being decided.
Exactly.
But this strategy, it's not without its risks, right? I mean, we talked about regulatory scrutiny and the financial impact. What other challenges could they face?
Well, one big risk is over-reliance on GLP-1 drugs.
Okay.
What happens if a new class of drugs emerges that's even more effective or has a better safety profile?
So putting all their eggs in one basket could backfire, even if it seems like a promising basket right now.
Right. And they also need to think about market saturation. More and more companies are entering the GLP-1 space.
Oh, right. Competition.
Yeah, increased competition could squeeze profit margins and make it harder to, recoup that $11 billion investment.
That makes sense. And what about public perception? There's been a lot of talk about the high cost of these drugs already. If Novo Nordisk is seen as like prioritizing profits over patient access, that could really hurt their reputation and even invite more government regulation.
All valid concerns. And Novo Nordisk needs to be really careful navigating those. But if they play their cards right, the potential rewards are huge.
Huge. So let's imagine the ideal scenario. Everything goes according to plan, they overcome the challenges, and this gamble pays off. What does that future look like?
Okay, so in the best case scenario, they navigate the regulations, they ramp up production to meet demand, and they leverage Catalent's expertise to develop those next generation treatments we were talking about.
Those next generation treatments.
Right. Imagine therapies that are more effective, safer, and more convenient for patients.
And hopefully they keep those prices in check.
Right. Ensure that everyone who needs these treatments can actually access them.
That would be incredible.
It's a tall order, but not impossible. And in that scenario, they don't just become the leader in the GLP-1 market.
Yeah.
They potentially revolutionize the entire metabolic disease landscape. We could be talking about a paradigm shift in how we treat these conditions with benefits for millions of people worldwide.
Okay, best case scenario, we achieve medical breakthroughs and improve countless lives.
Right.
But what about the flip side? What happens if this big bet goes wrong?
Well, if they stumble, the consequences could be significant.
Like what?
Imagine failing to meet that demand or running into those major regulatory roadblocks.
Oh, yeah.
It could damage their reputation, hurt their bottom line, and even slow down progress in the entire GLP-1 field.
So the stakes are really high. This acquisition has set the stage for a dramatic showdown in the world of metabolic disease treatment.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just about Novo Nordisk. This is sending ripples throughout the whole pharmaceutical industry.
Really?
Yeah. It raises questions about the future of drug development manufacturing and even the very nature of competition in this space.
Those are some huge questions.
Right.
And we're going to tackle them when we return for the final part of our deep dive. We'll explore the wider implications of this acquisition for the entire pharma landscape. Stig Narkin, Sogamothen. Welcome back to the show. We've been talking about Novo Nordisk buying Catalent. And before we left off, we were talking about how this is making waves beyond just, the GLP-1 market.
Yeah, that's right. This is like a window into the future of the whole pharmaceutical industry. It shows some big trends that are going to change how drugs are developed, made, and brought to market.
So for our listeners out there who maybe aren't, pharma execs, why should they care about these trends? How could this impact them?
These trends are going to affect everyone who takes medication, basically all of us. We're talking about potential impacts on drug prices, how quickly new treatments are available, and even what kinds of therapies are developed.
Okay, big picture stuff. Can you break down some of these trends?
Sure. One of the biggest is vertical integration.
Vertical integration.
That's what Novo Nordisk is doing by, bringing manufacturing in-house. It gives them more control over their supply chain, which we've seen is so important lately with all the global disruptions.
Right. The pandemic really showed us how vulnerable those global networks can be.
Exactly. And another trend is this increasing focus on specialized manufacturing.
Specialized manufacturing.
Like Catalent. They're known for being experts in producing those complex injectable drugs, which are becoming more and more common.
So it's not just about having lots of factories. It's about having the right kind of factories.
With the right expertise. Exactly.
Okay, what else?
Well, this kind of leads into another trend that's going to be huge. Data and analytics.
Data analytics.
As companies, gather more information about how they make their drugs, they can use that data to optimize production, reduce costs, and even predict problems.
So using data to make smarter decisions, not just about what drugs to make, but how to make them better.
Absolutely. And this data-driven approach is essential as we move towards things like personalized medicine.
Okay, so it sounds like this acquisition is pointing to a new era in pharma, one that's driven by data, vertical integration, and specialized manufacturing.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And this shift is going to create both opportunities and challenges for companies big and small.
So let's bring it back to our listener. What's the takeaway here? Why should they care about this business deal?
Because it's more than just a business deal. It's a look into a future where the drugs we depend on could be better, easier to get, and maybe even cheaper.
It's a future where companies are betting big on science to make our lives better.
And while there are definitely challenges, the possibilities are really exciting.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Novo Nordisk buying Catalent.
Right.
We looked at how it immediately impacts the GLP-1 market, the bigger implications for the whole pharmaceutical industry, and what it means for all of us.
I hope this got you thinking and maybe even interested in learning more about this field.
And as always, keep asking questions and keep diving deep into the topics that you care about. Thanks for joining us.